Allie, you have really good answers. I agree with you on all of them, actually. And I would have a really long video if I touched on all of them, but you brought up something really important and something that I really enjoy teaching about, and that's something you mentioned in number one. So while I agree with you that, she probably stayed because she didn't think that she could make it on her own, and the way that you describe the characters, I think you're spot on, and it shows that you really understand this. But I'm going to enlighten you a little bit more, so bear with me. I hope you watch all of this. You say that you like the setting, the plot, actually said the plot, but you didn't like the dialect. So that's what I want to focus on. I understand that this can be quite complicated to find your rhythm with this and to get into reading this, because it can be hard to follow, and then you read a word and you're like, did that sounded like, it might say like, but it's spelled L-A-K, and then you have to read it again. And so it can be a little bit complicated and confusing to read, but it's important, and here's why. Zora Neale Hurston is probably one of the most prolific and influential speakers of American history. We have the Harlem Renaissance, with authors such as Langston Hughes and Alice Walker. And Alice Walker was actually so impressed by Zora Neale Hurston that she resurrected a headstone for her after Zora Neale Hurston passed away. Because as you would think that since she's such a well-known author, she's had a lot of things published, and we're still reading her to this day, she actually died a very, very poor woman, and there was not even any money left from her to build a headstone. So at her grave years later, Alice Walker paid for that to be done because she was so important. And so here's what she did. Back when the Harlem Renaissance started to get going, maybe even before it was dubbed the Harlem Renaissance, and you had the budding authors such as Langston Hughes, everybody wrote like a white man to a white man. Didn't matter your gender, didn't matter your race, because it was the white man who read. If you go back to the slavery days, slaves were not allowed to read, they were not taught how to read, and they were actually punished a lot, and very, very severely, if they were caught reading or caught trying to read, or some even put to death for that, especially teaching somebody to read, because they did not want the slaves and the African American race to become educated. And so when Zora Neale Hurston was very educated, she actually went to college. She went to a very prestigious college, got a degree, so she was very educated. However, she talked like this. This was how she talked. And so even though at that time everybody wrote to the white man like a white man, she came out and said, no, I don't think so. I'm going to write how I am. I'm going to write who I am. I'm going to write like I talk, because this is my culture, and I'm not ashamed of that. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and she's right. And so she wrote her story. She started writing like she talked, and it's actually called the Black Vernacular. That's the term of this dialect, the Black dialect or the Black Vernacular, either one. And so she's the one who dubbed that. She's the one who created that. And when she first published it, you would think that the African American race would be cheering her on, but they were actually very upset and disappointed in her, because their attitude was, you're making us look dumb, you're making us look uneducated, and we're trying to do this whole the whole equal rights thing, and you're not helping our cause any by presenting us in this way. And she stood strong in that, saying, no, we're not uneducated. It's this is our heritage. This is where we come from, and this is how we talk, like it or not. And so then the white people started reading it and really liked it. And so then other authors, races and genders, started writing as they spoke. They started representing themselves even more. And so that's where we get a greater sense of it being a historical fiction. Because had she not written like this and it sounded more like the white man, it wouldn't have had the same impact. And so I think that's really important in this story, and knowing the background of history of the African American race, of the American people in general. And so I'm really glad you brought that up. I hope this wasn't too much information, and I hope it didn't bounce around too much. I get kind of excited talking about this, but it's a really brief overview. But if you have any questions or want more information, then just let me know. But thanks for the good main post again.